What's up, all you weirdos? We are back. I told you guys to join the MadLabMMA.com in the beginning of June, that we were going to have a great month, and you were going to get a discount. Actually, because there's 5 fights this month, usually there's 4, obviously, you're getting a discount. And we had an amazing night on the board for us. The fights weren't that good. A lot of people were calling it UFC 302 plus the main event. I guess I can understand that in a way. You know, especially when you look at the co-main event, it was kind of lackluster. And when you have like Mickey Gall involved in one of the fights that could have been up for fight of the night, you know the card wasn't that good. But overall, I thought it was okay. Just for fear of fact, when you're winning, when your picks are coming in, like you're having a little bit better time. You can be the greatest card in the world, and if you're losing, you're having a shitty time. You know, so for me, you know, I didn't see it that bad, but I understand where people were coming from. It was kind of a lackluster card. Could have been a lot better. And coming up this week, we have a kind of similar card, but it's free, right? So it's a little bit different. Before we jump into it, I do want to talk about a couple big news breaks that we have. One of them is obviously we have no idea what's going on with 303 with Conor McGregor. He canceled not only the presser in Ireland, which Dana White and his staff flew out to Ireland right after 302 that night, got down to Ireland, and they canceled the presser on Conor's behalf. But not only that, they canceled all media obligations. They ended up pulling out ads and stuff off of ESPN, so nobody really knows what's happening. Some people say it's not going to happen. Some people say it's going to happen. I'm under the mindset where I'll believe it when he walks into the cage. I've been saying that for a long time. This guy has never pulled out of a fight, but he's also has had a track record of just not being reliable. So I have no idea what's going to happen there. But the one thing that I did call was Tyson not going to fight. I said he wasn't going to be medically fit to fight. I've been saying this for months and months and months, that when you take a guy who's 57 years old, who's been through what a normal 57-year-old man has been through, you're going to have to jump through hoops to clear this guy medically. If you guys followed his career the whole way, like I'm talking about back when he fought on HBO, you know, and you sat in front of the TV with your friends and you were just counting down the seconds, how many seconds is it going to take this time, or, you know, who's going to maybe knock him off the pedestal, you understand, like, the road that this guy has had from his fight career to his ups and downs with legal issues, with women, with drugs, with rehab, with just a culmination of everything. This guy's lived a life of 10 lives. And when you take a situation like, for instance, my father was in last week, and, you know, obviously he's the one who got me into boxing. So we spent a little bit of time watching some old fights. And one of the fights that we watched Foreman versus Holyfield. And back then, Foreman was 40 years old. And I remember we were talking. He's like, do you remember? He's like, you were a little bit young. Yeah. He's like, but do you remember back in the day, 40 years old? We were like, wow, he's 40 years old. He's fighting Holyfield. Now, mind you, I understand he was fighting Evander Holyfield, you know, but at the end of the people were still saying he's 40, he's 40, he's 40. And my father brought up the point. He's like, imagine he was 57 at that time, 2 decades older. What would have the people have been saying then? He's 57 years old. What is he doing? What is he doing? What is he doing? But now we're in the year of social media. We're in the year of taking long-winded clips, cutting them into 30 seconds, and making them look all fancy and good. You know, and then you got the outlets where people now can go onto YouTube. They can listen to these people talk about it. They can listen to these people promote it, angle it. And you start buying into it, and that's what social media does, right? I mean, social media is kind of a buy-in society where, you know, a woman can be wearing something, that other woman needs it. This one needs it. A guy can be doing something and it's a trendy thing, and the next guy has to do it. It's kind of an app that buys and sells the world, right? So, you know, and I'm not like diving on anybody in particular, but he just popped into my mind on my last video, so I mentioned his name, but someone like Jesse on Fire, who posts a lot of content. I do have respect for Jesse on Fire. He puts a lot of work into his channel. But the fact of the matter is, like, not everything he does is promoting the truth when it comes to Tyson. It may be his truth, and that's okay. He's entitled to that. But when you're posting these 30-second clips and you're saying, like, this is Mike Tyson, like, I wouldn't stand in front of him, he's going to knock Jake Paul out, video after video after video after video, people are going to start buying into it. But what people got to understand is, like, these are 30-second clips of 10-minute, 20-minute videos that they're kind of dicing up, and they're showing you this angle of him. But what happens after the 30 seconds? What happens after 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes? Not only that, but no one's talking about the 14-ounce gloves, where if you had children like Anthony's got 2 kids. If I were to ask Anthony, let me get your kids involved in boxing, those kids would be wearing 14-ounce gloves so they don't get hurt. They're sparring gloves. They're pillows. Take that on top of 2-minute rounds. Where are you getting the 2 minutes to really knock somebody out? It's very hard. Boxing's a little different. You got to find people's timing. You got to like kind of set your shots up. You can't just take somebody down and grapple them. You got to set things up. So those minutes go by really quick. So if you even stun somebody, you can maybe spark somebody out with a minute into the round, but now you got a minute to finish them where they could shell up. Like, it's not as easy. Your window starts to close. So you got 14-ounce gloves. You got 2-minute rounds, you got 8 rounds. Like, the problem I have with this fight is I think people have a fantasy, right? They're in love with the fantasy of Mike Tyson back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, these people who haven't watched him his whole entire career, they're fantasizing about maybe getting a glimpse of him now, like maybe we'll get a 30-second or 1-minute glimpse of what Mike Tyson actually was. You're never going to see that. It's never going to happen. He's a shell of himself. When you get a guy who has been on so many SSRIs for his mental state, medicine for his physical state, the rebounds and the rubber bands back and forth, doing smoking pot, doing mushrooms, doing this, doing that. Like, this guy is a broken down 57-year-old. Is he in good shape? Yes. Aesthetically, when you look at him for 57, he's in good shape. Can he still move decent for a 57-year-old guy? Absolutely. But that's only going to last a couple minutes. And I think for a medical board to clear him, they're going to have to jump through hoops. So now they say that he's got an ulcer, and that's why he's pulling out of this fight. He got sick on a plane. The medical staff came onto the plane. It was a big hoopla thing. Felt dizzy, felt nauseous. Very much could have been an ulcer on the plane, but the ulcer is not the reason why he pulled out of this fight. I've never, in all my years of watching boxing and watching combat sports, have heard like somebody pull out from an ulcer. I've heard things like maybe a broken thumb, obviously, a cut, obviously, situations like that, back issues and stuff, but an ulcer, no. I mean, Derek Lewis was the closest thing to it when he ate like fried chicken in the back before his fight and he was puking everywhere. But I've never heard of somebody pull out due to like an ulcer. And I've had an ulcer before. It's not fun, but it's nothing that would kind of hinder me from competing if I had to compete. So I personally think it's more of a cover-up to not publicly shame him, to not publicly put him in, out there and saying, look, he's just not fit to fight. Like, they don't want to poo-poo on him. They don't want to, like, tarnish his name. But they're not going to come out and say, look, the medical board looked at him. He's not fit to fight. Let's just call it what it is. So what they're going to do is they're going to say it's postponed. They're going to say that they're going to reschedule it. But then by the time they reschedule it, well, okay, now he's 58. And then he's getting older. And then it's just going to be one thing after another until it's finally going to fizzle out into the night. It's finally just going to be like, you know what? It never panned out. It never happened. So I personally think the fight is happening. It's not happening. They postponed it once. They'll postpone it again. Or they're just going to slowly maybe get him another opponent, and it's just going to kind of fizzle out. But I've been calling it for months. I said, guys, don't get baited into this thing. Don't get baited into this whole, 30-second clips, and he's the best shape of his life, and he's not the same guy. So I'm not surprised in any way, shape, or form, nor should you be. All right, so this card, honestly, this card reminds me of guys that have records where their backs are against the wall, and whoever loses, they're possibly getting a pink slip. That's what this card reminds me of. There's quite a few guys on this card that are in situations like that. Dominic Reyes, Dustin Jacoby, Marquez, Reese, Soriano, Baeza. Like, there's guys on this card that they're fighting each other with losing records, and whoever loses is getting their pink slip. This is where they start trimming the fat halfway through. So, the main event is good, though. The main event's very interesting. It's a stylistic, like, mishmash nightmare kind of deal. But I could see this going one way. When you got Jared Cannonier and Imavov, you look at both of their styles. And first of all, you got to look at Jared Cannonier. This is a guy who's, natural heavyweight, who's come down to middleweight. And not many guys can do what he's done. Usually when you cut down, to this kind of weight. Guys like Rashad Evans have tried it. You lose pop in your shot. You lose muscle index, strength index. You lose muscularity. You lose a lot when you cut that kind of weight. I know for me, I'm 260 right now. There was a point in time where I was cutting weight and I got down to 205, and I felt absolutely like death, to the point where I was leaning into my friend's car. He saw me road running on the road, and he pulled up to me, and the heat from the car was actually making me want to pass out. The heat coming from underneath the car. So I know, like, for me, I can never go down to light heavyweight. Like, my body just cannot hold it. But somebody like Jared Cannonier, he comes down from heavyweight down to middleweight, and he looks tremendous. And he's 40 years old. He's in the best shape of his life. Very muscular, carried his power down with him. Really, really, really something else. And it's not talked about enough, how this guy has his diet so perfect, how his genetics are so good, and how he was able to kind of carry everything down with him to middleweights. It's very impressive, especially at 40. But there is a tax that you have to pay at the bridge for that. There is a tax you got to pay at the bridge for that, and that is age. Age stops for no one. Eventually, those weight cuts are going to get harder and harder. Eventually, the metabolism starts slowing down, and the genetic code can only keep up for so long. It's going to carry him. His power is going to be the last thing to go, but eventually, he's going to be in the cage, and you're going to start seeing his age. It just happens. A guy like Imavov, who's in his late 20s, this is a young, spry guy. He fights on his toes. He pushes forward. He understands how to fight on the front foot, and he understands how to fight on the back foot. But the tale of him is his cardio. This is a guy who's going to put pressure on you early, and if you could weather that storm, you could start putting the pressure on him late. So that's the tale of Imavov. You have to look at this as a 5-round fight. This is not a 3-round fight. Jared Cannonier is not really chinny. He does fight kind of careful. He does kind of fight slow pace. He likes to push the pressure. He's not good off his back foot. So he's going to have an interesting task when he's kind of getting backed up with Imavov, and later in the fight when Imavov is still good on his back foot, he's going to have to find ways to hit him. But this is the way this fight's going to go. Imavov has to take an early jump on him. I mean, I don't think the wrestling's going to work with Cannonier. I think that the majority of this fight stays on the feet. Even though Imavov does have a path there, I don't think he's going to use it. And if he does try to use it, I don't think it's going to work outside of maybe 1 or 2 times. But I think he's going to have to put the pressure on very, very early, but he's going to have to put it in a kind of an even keel pace manner. He can't just go out there and put this heavy pace on Cannonier, because then by the 3rd round, Cannonier can start taking over and he could steal the fight. And that's exactly the way I see this going. I think Imavov's going to put pressure on him early. It's very important for him to win these early rounds. And then it's going to be, when does he start fading, where Jared Cannonier starts to take over the fight? And if Cannonier does take over the fight, is it going to be enough to steal the fight at the end? So I'm going to say no. I'm going to buy into the age here. I'm going to buy into the youth here. I'm going to buy into the spry, nimble ability of Imavov to kind of stay away, pick and prod his spots, maybe be a little bit more cautious, be a little bit more aware of his conditioning in this fight, and just do enough to get over that point in time before Cannonier starts putting that pressure on him later in the fight. But he's just going to come up short, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go with Imavov here. I'm going to go Imavov by a close decision. Next one, Dominic Reyes, Dustin Jacoby. Look, man, this all boils down to what Dominic Reyes you get. I talk about this all the time. And if you read the article that I'm going to be posting for the main card, before the end of the day, you'll see I talk a lot about leaving a part of yourself in the cage. And, it doesn't matter if it's the cage or the ring. There's certain every fight you go into, you leave a part of yourself in there that you never get back. Sometimes it's a very small fraction that's just not even visible to the human eye or even your body when you wake up. You don't feel like you lost anything, but you did lose a hairline fracture of yourself in that fight. Unless it's a quick fight, it's a 1-round fight and it's done. You don't get hurt. But every fight you leave, but there's some fights that take something from you, that you leave behind that you just never can get back. And it doesn't only have to be from a physicality standpoint. It can also be from a soulful standpoint. And I'm a firm believer that what the John Jones fight did to Dominic Reyes took his soul. And I think that he deserved that win. I think he won that fight. I think he fought tooth and nail with everything he has. I think he went into the center of the cage at the end of that fight and really believed in his heart that he did enough to win. And when the cards came out and they said John Jones' name, you just saw his soul leave him. It was such a disgusting moment for him that I really believe that he just left something in there that has never returned. And it happens. It happened to look at Meldrick Taylor. It happened to him from a physicality and a mental standpoint when he was beating Chavez the whole fight. They should have gave him his moment, and with 1 second left, Chavez, dropped him to the canvas, and they stopped the fight and robbed him of his victory. It's never the same again after that. He went to drugs. He went to a spiral. A life of into a spiral with drugs and alcohol. His career was never the same again. This was like an Olympic gold medalist at one time. So it happens. I mean, it happened to Renan Barão. Renan Barão won 36 fights in a row. He lost his very first professional fight, and then he ripped off 36 fights straight. After he lost to TJ Dillashaw, after 36 straight fights, he went like 2-9 for the rest of his career. There's certain things that happen to fighters in there that they just can't get back. And I believe if you look at Dominick Reyes, there's no controversy here. He lost to John Jones. He comes back. He gets knocked out by Blachowicz. He gets knocked out by Prochazka. He gets knocked out by Spann. Guy has never been the same again. But we know what he is. We know that he's a competitive guy. He's a very athletic guy. He's got good striking. And when the wherewithal is there, he's a very, very good fighter. And he's going up against a guy like Justin Jacoby that I honestly like the matchup. I like the matchup. He's not a guy who's going to put a hard course pressure on him. He's not a guy that's going to grapple him to death. He's a very high pedigree striker. But Dustin Jacoby's middle of the way. Look, Dustin Jacoby had to get a second chance just to get in off the Contender Series. Dana White didn't want him the first time. Then he came in and took him the second time. He is a little bit older now, Jacoby. Not a great record. Lost to Menefield, beaten Njoku, lost to Roundtree. He's 1-3 in his last 4. So this is a very winnable fight for Reyes. But it all depends on what Reyes shows up. Southpaw going against Orthodox. Orthodox fighters usually have issues with Southpaw. I'm a Southpaw, so I know like the adjustment period when I see guys, when I would spar with them, like they would have an adjustment period with me. So Dominick Reyes brings that. He brings that long frame. He's going to have a 1-2 inch reach advantage, going to be athletic, going to be moving a little bit more around the cage. He just has to protect that chin. Like he really, really, really has to protect that chin. And he has to come in there with some semblance of pride. He's got to come in there with some semblance of confidence. Like, look, the John Jones thing happened. I can't take it back. I can't live in this nightmare anymore. I can only do one thing. I can either get back on my horse and ride, or I'm going to take my 4th L, possibly by knockout, and my career is over. So there's a lot of pressure on both guys here, because Dustin Jacoby, the same thing, 1-3. He loses here. He's 1-4. Chances are one of these guys are getting a pink slip. I think Dominick Reyes is better for the business. I think Jacoby is a good fighter, but I think Dominick Reyes is better for the division and better for the business. I'm actually going to take a flyer on the dog here. And I know it sounds kind of crazy. I know a lot of people are going to be all over Jacoby here, but I do think Reyes has the chops to get it done. He just needs to protect his chin, and he needs to come in with a semblance of confidence. Like, I'm going to put this behind me. Like all the Jones fight and these last 3 losses that I got knocked, I got to put this behind me, and I got to go back to who I was before the John Jones fight. And if he does that, even 75% of the course, I think he could beat Jacoby here. So I'm going to go Dominick Reyes, which I know is not going to be a very popular pick. Next one is Rosas Jr. and Ricky Turcios. This was a fight that was supposed to happen, and Rosas pulled out because he had the shits or something before the fight. Seriously, I think he did. I think he had the shits or he was nauseous. I personally think he was shitting in his pants, and I think the moment got to him. Young kid, I think they brought him in a little bit too early. He's shown that he's got skill to win. He's a good grappler. I respect the kid for coming in doing what he's done. A lot of kids, wouldn't even have the balls to step up on a high school stage and sing in front of an auditorium, never mind fight on a national stage. So you got to give the kid some credit there. But he is very beatable. He is very beatable. He showed that he could slow down. He showed that his striking's not that good. He showed that if he doesn't get what he wants, you can kind of take advantage of him, and you could bring that inner child out in him. And I think Ricky Turcios is the guy that can absolutely do that. I think that Rosas has a higher ceiling. I think that he has the potential to be a better fighter. I think he has more danger as far as the finishing danger. But I think if Ricky Turcios puts a pace on him, he can pull out that inner child almost like Rodriguez did. Rodriguez was able to pull out that inner child in Rosas and made him look like, you could see by his demeanor, by his face, like a kid that was looking for his parents and giving up. And I think Ricky Turcios is the kind of kid that can kind of extract that from him. Ricky Turcios isn't a great fighter. Rodriguez isn't a great fighter, but there's certain fighters out there that can go in there and show him like, look, I'm your big brother. And I think Ricky Turcios might be that guy to do that. So I'm going to take Turcios here. Probably another unpopular pick, especially after Hosas' win against Mitchell. But, guys, Mitchell came in and went. Like, this is a guy, this isn't Bryce Mitchell. This is a guy who came into the UFC. They utilized him as a stepping stool to get this kid's confidence back after his loss to Rodriguez, and they fucking sent him on his way. This is not Mitchell, you know. So I'm going to go Turcios, probably Turcios by decision. Next fight. Bruno Ferreira and Dustin Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus, listen, it's funny with this guy, right? So I don't consider him like a bad fighter. I know a lot of people, when you look at his record and stuff, you're like, you know, he kind of sucks. He really doesn't suck. Like, he's actually done better than I expected him to do. He's got a decent physique. He's pretty well-rounded. He beat some decent names, Soriano, Grant. And he lost to guys like Magomedov, Mirchar, Rodolfo Vieira. He lost to guys like ultimately that are going to take him down and just have this hardcore grappling advantage against him. But he's kind of doggy on his feet, right? Like, he will sit, he will stand, he will trade with you. And that's what I kind of like about him. Like, when he comes into fight, you know he doesn't have an uber high ceiling, but you know what he does bring to the table, he's going to utilize that to his advantage, and he's going to bring that consistently every time. You know, where we were just talking about Reyes, we don't know what Reyes is going to show up. You know, like, yeah, Dustin Stoltzfus, he's not that good, but at least you know whatever he does bring, he's going to bring that night. You know, he's fighting Bruno Ferreira. He's got a 100% finishing rate, brings a lot of pressure. Him, too, he's beaten some good guys. He beat Phil Hawes, beat RoboCop. He lost to Ruzabayev by knockout. I'm not ready to categorize him as chinny just from one fight. But it has shown that does show you that he can be clipped, he can be put down. But a lot of that, guys, boils down to when you have a 100% finishing rate, that shows you that you don't fight safe. Like, you don't have a 100% finishing rate and you're a safe fighter. You can't. You can't be this safe technical counter fighter. You have to take chances in order to have a stat like that. Which means that, yes, he does get chaos. He does, throw, the defense to the wind. He does get chaotic at times. He will go for it, which will open up windows for Stoltzfus to kind of finish him. So listen, you can't have one and not the other. Just like you can't be 260 pounds like me and be super shredded. You can't be 150, 160 pounds and be strong. Like, you just can't. You can't have it both ways. So in the same thing with this, you can't be a super chaotic fighter and have a 100% finishing rate and be this uber careful Mayweather Philly shell technical fighter. It's one or the other. You know, so that's what Ferreira brings to the table. I just think the pressure is going to get to Stoltzfus. I do. I respect him. I'm not super confident in this fight, but I think that the streak continues with Ferreira. I think he does get this one done. I just think the pressure, the pace, I think Stoltzfus is going to be on his back foot a lot more in this fight. Be keeping up, probably catch Ferreira with some good shots, but I just think the judges are going to see that forward pressure, a little bit more offensive output, probably throwing a little bit more power, loads up on his shots a little more. He also does have some grappling, too, where Stoltzfus does have some issues. You know, so just more paths for me. More paths for me to win here. I'm going to go Bruno Ferreira. All right, next fight. Let me see. Let's break down. Let's break down. This is an interesting one, and then we'll call it a day. Miguel Baeza and Puna Soriano. I actually like this fight a lot. Soriano's coming down in weight for this fight. And when you look at Soriano, you look at both of these guys, right? They should not have the records that they have. They should not. I look at Baeza as a more of a long, athletic, technical, fighter that does show potential to me. He does. Ever since when he came into the UFC, and beat Brown and Sato, like, his striking looked good. He looked good on his feet. Everything he did was kind of like, it was a little unchained. It was a little quirky, but it was nothing you can't fix, right? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger used to say back in the day with Pumping Iron, like, you got to look at the body like a statue where you just put clay. You got to slap clay on places where it needs it. And that's where I look at Miguel Baeza. I look at him as a guy where, like, he's raw, but he's got potential to throw clay in certain spots and make him into, like, a good fighter. Not a contender, but a guy who can be nice on the roster. Like, if he fights, you're like, wow, Baeza's fight, it's going to be a good fight. And he just hasn't really panned out ever since his last two wins. He lost to Ponzinibbio, lost to Williams, lost to Fiallo. He's losing these fights, and now it doesn't look good for him because now he's on a 3-fight losing streak, and if he loses 4, chances are he might get his pink slip. On the flip side, you got Puna Soriano, who to me, all you need to do is take a wrench and literally slow this kid's game down a little bit, and I think he could be a good fighter. This dude relies on power. He relies on loading up on his shots. And I just said this in the Bruno Ferreira fight. When you do that, you're allowing yourself to open up windows for a nightmare of a night. And you're going to beat some guys like that, but majority of the time when we're at this level, they're going to find those windows to jump through. And it showed with him. I mean, he lost to Allen, lost to Maximov, beat Lungambula, lost to Kopylov, lost to Stolstiff. So this is a guy who's 1-4 right now. So technically one more, he's 1-5. One of these guys are getting a pink slip. The issue I have with this fight is, I don't know what you're going to see out of Soriano here as far as his weight, as far as is this going to affect him? Is he going to be able to bring his power down with him? Is he going to gas out quicker? Is he going to have a completely different game plan? Is he going to resort to wrestling a little more? You don't really know what you're going to see. And with Baeza, you kind of know what you're getting. You kind of know what you're getting with him. And I think Soriano might give him some issues here. I think, I think he's going to still have it in his mindset, after he rehydrates, I'm the bigger guy in there. I'm going to push you forward, and I'm going to kind of try to big brother you. And Baeza doesn't like that. This is a kid who likes to kind of be on his toes, and he likes to dictate range and dictate pace and kind of do what he wants to do. And I think if Soriano's gas tank can hold up here, in this weight class, I think that this is a fight where the judges are going to just see, and this is just to say that he doesn't finish him, because he could finish him. They're going to see the weight. They're going to see him pushing forward. They're going to see the loading up on the shots, the more damaging strikes, and they'll lean a little bit more on Soriano's corner. So this is a good fight. That's actually a really interesting fight. These fights I don't usually look forward to when you get a guy who's 2-3 and another guy who's 1-4. I can usually give a shit less about it, but I'm actually really interested in seeing this fight because both of these guys I consider pretty decent, and one of these guys got to go. So I'm actually interested in this fight. I'm going to lean Soriano lightly, but like I said, when you got two guys that their backs are completely against the wall, they find a way to fight. So this could be an interesting scrap. The rest of the card is, pretty good. I mean, Daniel Marcos, I'm excited to see. You got Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa, not a bad fight. Corey Stamens fighting Taylor Lapilus, that's a decent fight. So the card's decent. I mean, the card's decent. You're having an overall big body of a card here, 13, 14 fights. Then also we have Adrian Broner's fighting Saturday night, I believe. Is it Friday or Saturday? So we got a packed weekend. We got the NBA Finals starting up. So it's now that we're out of that lull, we had no sports for like 2-3 days. We're kind of out of that lull now, and we're going to keep the streak going. We had a great start to June. It's still not too late to join, themadlabmma.com. We're on a 4 or 5 week straight streak of just winning money. We're going to keep it going for the rest of this month. So come join us, come check us out, and I will see you next week.